Yes. First and foremost is to appreciate the decision of the High Court yesterday with regard to the deployment of the manual voter register in polling stations. No, our position has all along been that we need the manual voter register alongside the Kiems at every polling station for obvious reasons. Key one being that technology does fail. And if it fails, and we don't have a manual voter register to resort to, then we have a problem on our hands. Now that has been addressed by the court, and we are very, very grateful that the court has applied its wisdom in solving this very, very critical matter. But having said so, now in view of the High Court's decision allowing the deployment of manual voter registers in polling stations, it's important for the IEBC to revisit the letter and spirit of the Elections Act, okay, which has established the basis for the deployment of complementary mechanisms for identification of voters at polling stations. My view is that with that court ruling, the IEBC now has got no option but, of course, deploy both the Kiems and the manual voter register at the polling stations. But more importantly, our view, again, is that the use of the manual voter register for identification of voters is a much faster process. It's a much faster means than the Kiems kits. And therefore, it would be important for the IEBC to proceed and pronounce itself further that the presiding officers in the respective polling stations will be at liberty to use the manual voter registers for the identification of voters, not necessarily when the Kiems fails, but as a way of enhancing the efficiency and speed of the voting process. In other words, the presiding officers should be allowed, and the IEBC must pronounce itself on this. The presiding officers should be allowed to use those two systems alternately or concurrently, really, as it were. That would really help us enhance the speed of voting process and also safeguard its integrity. This is very important because unless the IEBC comes out clearly and gives this clarification and directs its officers on the ground accordingly, we may still have confusion. If you read the judgment of the High Court keenly and clearly and carefully, you will notice that it paves the way for the use of both systems concurrently. And if that were to happen as it should, then a lot of long queues in the polling centers would be reduced. And this will really help voters to come out in large numbers, knowing that the voting process is quick and so that they can vote and go back to their daily activities. There should be no contradiction whatsoever. There should be no confusion whatsoever, because the law as it is quite unambiguous, quite clear, quite explicit, okay? And coupled with the High Court judgment of yesterday, the IEBC has got no option, no excuse whatsoever why they cannot allow their presiding officers to just use the manual voter register, even as they continue with the Kiems system. The continued attacks by William Ruto and his ODA group against members of the national government administration officers, members of what used to be called the provincial administration, from the chiefs to the deputy county commissioners, and to the regional commissioners. We want to sound out a very strong warning that unless this is stopped, we are going to basically create anarchy. Because these are public officers charged with the key responsibilities of, among other things, coordinating security issues in their areas of jurisdiction. And they should be working under no coercion from any quarter whatsoever. Now, this pattern of Ruto and his friends continuing to single out, to profile members of the national government administration is not only going to cause panic amongst public officers who are otherwise hardworking, but can also have the effect of prejudicing the matter of security in those jurisdictions. So William Ruto and his team must stop from singling out these hapless officers for ceaseless attacks day in, day out, and allow them to do their work. If they have an issue, then they should deal with us, their fellow politicians. There is no need for Ruto and his team to take cover behind members of the provincial administration, rather than face us as their opponents. The chiefs are sometimes working under very difficult conditions across the country. So they need support and encouragement rather than the vilification that they are being subjected to by Ruto and his team. We want to assure the chiefs, the deputy county commissioners, the county commissioners, and the regional commissioners that we shall stand by them before, during, and after the 9th August election. That no one should ever intimidate them. We must assure these officers that their jobs are secure and safe within the terms and of service, or in the public service. That Ruto and his team have got no basis, have got no authority to threaten or intimidate public officers wherever they are working. So let these officers continue to work in the normal manner and to offer services to wananchi, knowing fully well that they are protected by the terms and conditions of their employment within the public service of the Republic of Kenya. And that our team, which is going to win the elections on 9th, will continue to safeguard that job security that they enjoy as we speak. It's also important to point out that because of the reckless, the continued reckless remarks from Ruto and his team, a lot of anxiety, panic, and fear is already gripping many parts of the Rift Valley. Indeed, as we speak, some people are beginning to leave their homes to perhaps to look for safer places to take refuge before the elections, as a result of these reckless remarks and outbursts by Ruto and his team. My appeal is that the law enforcement agencies need to move with speed, and take decisive action against Ruto and members of the Kenya Kwanza formation before it is too late. Let us arrest this situation now, rather than wait for the ICC to take up. We have a chance to deal with it now, as a sovereign state, with institutions which have capacity to deal with such scenarios. So let not Ruto think that he is somewhat above the law. He is not. He can't be. He can't be. The fear and despondency that is already gripping many parts of Rift Valley cannot be allowed to go on. Our people who are living everywhere else in the country must be protected and must be made to feel that they are safe to go about their day-to-day activities. And more importantly, to be allowed to vote come the 9th of August from wherever they're registered as voters. Therefore, those agencies that are responsible for maintenance of law and order must not waste any single minute, but to move in and deal with this matter appropriately. Even if it means arresting and charging these characters, let it be so. I'm encouraged that the DPP has already ordered for investigations, but I want these investigations to be fast-tracked. So that don't wait for Tuesday. If we get enough evidence that can sustain a prosecution, let us see heads rolling. Say on Monday. Let us see people being arrested this weekend and being taken to court on Monday. They can be charged and given bail to go and vote on Tuesday. Okay? That is those people, including Ruto. That is my position. Because no one is above the law. And of course, some of these outbursts include the so-called allegations of night meetings being held in Nakuru State House. If Ruto is privy to any such meetings, the best thing he needs to do is to share that information with the relevant security agencies so that they can take the necessary action. If he is privy to any meetings that are planning evil things in this country, he cannot just remain silent and then all of a sudden go to the media with such very serious and grave allegations. They need to be reported to the relevant agencies, principally the police, to investigate. And I've also learned with bemusement, if I may say so, Ruto's latest threat to storm the streets of Nairobi if he is not allowed to hold his final campaign rally in Nyayo Stadium. You know, Kenyans have got no business about where Ruto holds his rallies or not. Okay? If at all, as they say, the courts have allowed them to hold their rally in Nyayo Stadium, the best thing they need to do is to go and engage the administrators, the management of the stadium, and resolve that matter with them without necessarily whipping emotions and causing incitement. Okay? In these dying days of the campaigns. Okay? Let me also tell Ruto that the streets he's talking about, some of us are more conversant about them than him. So he should not dare threaten us with street actions. Some of us are veterans of street action, and we can teach him one or two things about that. So, if he's simply looking for trouble, he should say so. Rather than preempt that he will be denied access to Nyayo Stadium in the wake of the court ruling, purported court ruling, because I haven't seen it. Let him not dare us with street action. In any case, Kenyans are not going to allow him and his group to disrupt the peace that's currently prevailing in Nairobi and many parts of the country. Never. Finally, is to appeal to our people. Our people in Siaya, in Gunja, and all over, that the campaigns are now coming to an end. It's basically one day to the end of these campaigns, which have been very eventful. And I want to appeal to our people to exercise restraint, conduct themselves with decorum and in a peaceful manner as we head to these elections, during the elections, and after that. Because we are sure that this election is going to be won by our presidential candidate, Right Honorable Raila Odinga. Hands down. He's going to win these elections hands down in round one. So it behoves us, his supporters, to conduct ourselves responsibly, to conduct ourselves with utmost decorum, even as we prepare to celebrate this imminent victory that will usher in the third and hopefully the final liberation of this country. That is the economic liberation. Thank you.